What's up everybody and welcome back to the Fortress of Solitude. Today we're going to be checking out Action Comics issue 1055 by Philip Kennedy Johnson and Rafa Sandoval. The Superman family continue their battle against the Necrohive, the body horror cyborg offshoots of Metallo made by John while under the control of the Cyborg Superman. Hank Henshaw's presence looms large over this issue and Johnson uses it as a chance to explain how he exactly got out of the Phantom Zone, and it's such a simple answer. He didn't. He's actually technically still in there, but because he's a technopath, any bit of tech his mind can reach in and out of the zone, he can take over. Like the piece of an original Cyborg Superman that Lex used to build his new remote control battlesuits we saw back in the Kal-El Returns special. I thoroughly commend Johnson for connecting all of these things together and creating this huge web of storytelling, making all of these issues and specials feel very important and matter in the grand scheme of things. If Cyborg Superman wasn't enough, Johnson continues to draw from the 90s Superman comics with the return of the ERADICATOR, or a ERADICATOR, since this is a kind of a newer version which is a hologram and is still a massive dick, which leads to some pretty funny moments between him, Connor, and John. Speaking of the Superman family, they do get some stuff to do this issue, especially at the beginning of the issue, which sees a lot of them teaming up to take down the Necrohive, and I just love the banter between all of them, since we have Kenan Kong, the Superman of China, teaming with Superboy and Superman, and he's like learning their language. He quotes Han Solo at one point, and it's all thanks to them inviting him over for like game and movie nights, and it's just really nice and builds this sort of family rapport between them all. It's just fantastic. The Eradicator though is brought back to help locate Cyborg Superman, since he technically goes against that Kryptonian purity Eradicator is trying to preserve. The journey to locate Henshaw leads to some really awesome character development of Metallo, who's just been getting so much over the last couple of issues, and here he's teaming with the Superman family, and this issue really cracks open his own family drama and his childhood and what made him into who he is, and surprisingly he's finding like a kindred spirit between Othel and Osel, the super twins, relating to them since both of them want to protect each other from the world, and he wants to do that with his sister Tracy. But then there's also the other fact that they were both bred in violence. They're both children of violence. They grew up on Warworld, and John essentially grew up in his own version of Warworld, as we find like, you know, his parents and his father in particular was very violent to him and his sister, and it led him to repeat the cycle of violence against his father, and him getting hold of a gun and shooting his father dead to protect his sister, and then that gives him the strength. He finds that there is strength in using a gun and using violence, and it made him feel valued and wanted, and I like that sort of led to him being thrown into the military, where the cycle of violence just continues and he keeps feeding into it, since the more he did it, the more people would value him and need him, which is what he's always wanted. He's wanted someone to want him. Rafa Sandoval choosing to tell this backstory through Polaroids pinned to a corkboard is really quite cool, since it's all connected with twine, and it's some fantastic visual storytelling, since it's almost like John is in his mind and he's like piecing it all together about how he came to be who he is now, and piecing together his own story, and it's such a good visual storytelling element, and I applaud Rafa for using it that way. I never knew that Metallo could be given such compelling and tragic backstories, since many writers have tried to do this over the years and, you know, tie him to people like Lois Lane in the New 52, and, you know, tie him in with Sam Lane and like the military, and kind of give him this sort of tragic backstory where he was forced to become Metallo. But here it just feels genuine. It feels like there was actual care put into this story, and it wasn't just something that was waved off because, oh, he's the big villain, Superman punches around for a couple of issues and then disappear until another writer wants to bring him back in some way. I'm even more interested in how Johnson's going to deal with Metallo's possible redemption, since violence is so ingrained in who he is and who he identifies as. So is a redemption even possible, especially with how the book ends and what John finds out about his sister? Will that push him further over the edge, or bring him back and see what Superman had done for him will he be able to do for his sister? I'm thoroughly intrigued to see where the story is going to go now. Apart from the amazing Metallo characterization, I really love how the death of Superman characters are being handled this issue. All of the main players for the reign of the Superman are here, but instead of retreading tired old plots like a lot of writers do, especially Dan Jurgens, Johnson has given all four of the Supermen something new and interesting interesting to do. We have Steel, who has his business and is rebuilding Metropolis around the Superman family, incorporating them into the city a little bit more. Superboy has a family now, and if you're following his book Man of Tomorrow by Kenny Porter, he's going into space and he's trying to find a true purpose outside of being yet another earthly super being. Cyborg Superman is evolving quite literally. His technopath powers are getting stronger, and now he's also targeting villains alongside Superman. And finally we have ERADICATOR, who while only appears briefly this issue, we haven't yet to see his full character arc, is seemingly acting the way his creator intended, as a guide and a helper to Kal-El. It's all really fantastic stuff, and I look forward to more of it as the book progresses. Philip Kennedy Johnson continues to spin gold through the pages of Action Comics, devoting ample time and much needed time to exploring Metallo's traumatic past and what made him into the villain we know today, while ingraining it within some pretty classic moments within Superman history. I wholeheartedly recommend this issue and the rest of Johnson's stellar run. The man just does not miss when it comes to Superman. I'm going to give this issue a 10 out of 10.